I'm Grace.
So let's get started.
I'm a recipe blogger, family-taught home chef,
Cheers.
Cheers.
iPhone-only photographer, and proud New Englander. There's no doubt that chicken and rice soup soothes the heart and soul. And there's one secret ingredient in this recipe that'll take your soup game up a notch.
I'm hiding the secret ingredient so you guys can't see it.
But I'm gonna show you all my other ingredients to make this awesome soup. Starting off with chicken. So I pre-cooked my chicken thighs here so you didn't have to watch me do it. They're just boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And I cooked them off in the oven at 425 for about 20 minutes. And I'm gonna show you how I shredded these other guys. And I don't have a fork, so bear with me. So there's no pretty way of doing this. I just kinda feel where the chicken naturally breaks. And then you just wanna take a big knife and just do a little shred. It's kind of like chunked / shredded, whatever works. Just nice bite-sized pieces. Next ingredient is rice. So I have some long grain rice here. This is actually brown basmati rice. You need to use a long grain rice because short grain will just kind of disintegrate in the soup. You don't want that, but you can use brown or white rice, whatever you want. And then I have the classics. I have some onion and garlic, and then of course in chicken and rice soup, you gotta have some carrots and celery. So I just peeled my carrots, and all I'm gonna do is get a new fresh knife. Really just doing bad here. And I'm just gonna chop up my carrots into, nice pieces that look really pretty in the soup. So after we've done our carrots, then we gotta do our celery. And we're just gonna do a similar thing. I just have a bunch of celery, and I'm just gonna give it a nice chop, including these little leaves, which are just so pretty and tender. And the final thing I prepped was some aromatics. I have some beautiful fresh Italian parsley that I just chopped up. I have some dried oregano for flavor, and then of course some bay leaves, which I describe as smelling like soup, because that's what I think it smells like. It makes soup. I'm gonna bring all this to the stove and get working. So the first step is we're going to saute our veggies. So I'm gonna add just a hefty splash of olive oil. And then I'm gonna add my garlic and my onion. And then lift this guy up. It's a big cutting board. And add my carrots and my celery into the mix and try not to get them on the counter. Hands are easier. Give it a good mix and let it saute for about 5 minutes. Chances are when you start to smell the carrots and the celery, you know you're good to go. We just want to release all those flavors. We don't really want to cook off the carrots completely. So next step is to add the chicken, the star of the show. Oh, I almost dropped it. And then to make this a soup, I have huge boxes of chicken broth. Can't forget it. So I'm gonna add 3 boxes of chicken broth right into our pot. So I'm sure it seemed like a lot of chicken broth at first, but now that it's in the pot, it looks just about right? So we need to add flavor now, even more flavor. Our oregano, our bay leaves, and then I've been waiting to reveal it. The star, the real star. This is the secret ingredient. I have 2 Parmesan Reggiano rinds. And if you place the rinds right in the soup as it's cooking, it's gonna flavor our soup. And you'll even be able to smell the Parmesan Reggiano once you take the rinds out at the end of cooking the soup, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna give this a nice stir, and then I'm going to cover our pot and bring our soup to a boil before we add our rice in. I turned my heat up so we can bring it to a boil. Pop that cover on. We're burling. Perfecto. This means it's time to add our rice. So I'm gonna add rice right in. And we're gonna add our fresh parsley. It's a nice big handful. And then any salt or pepper that you wanna add. I don't add any more salt just because the chicken broth is salty, but you can do as much salt as you want. And then I'm gonna give it a nice stir. And I'm gonna turn this down to a low simmer. And you can find the temperature that works for you to keep your soup at a simmer while your soup is covered. And you're gonna let this go until our rice is cooked, which you just follow the instructions on the back of the rice container. Usually for white rice, it takes about 20 minutes for the rice to cook. If you're using brown rice, if you're using brown rice like me, it'll take more like 40 minutes to cook at a nice simmer. And you're gonna wanna stir it once in a while. Goodbye. The rice should be cooked, but of course you don't know until you try. Just give me a year to blow on this. Rice is perfect. And the soup is good. So now I'm just going to go ahead and fish out the parmesans and the bay leaves because you don't want to eat those. One. We need to find one more. Tastefully tip. You can't do this for your bay leaves, but for your cheese rinds, if you don't eat the top of your cheese rinds with a little bit of cheese that's left on, you're really missing out on life. Let's plate this soup up while I munch. I'm poised and ready. Let's do it. How could anything get more comforting than a bowl of chicken and rice soup? Those parm rinds change the game, I'm telling you. Check this out on tastefullygrace.com. You won't regret it. How do you describe a bay leaf in chef terms? Smells like soup. Soupy.